Welcome to NTD Evening News. Our top story tonight, President Trump is warning Cuba to make a deal with the U.S. before it's too late. More on Cuba's ties to Venezuelan oil and what officials say the country has been trading in return. What's next for Venezuela's oil? President Trump saying oil companies will spend $100 billion to rebuild there. Our panel unpacks what this means for the region and the world. A neurologist explains why the onset of Alzheimer's isn't random or inevitable. Details on what steps we can take right now to lower its risk. And mythical dragons and emperors have touched down in Paris with an exhibition capturing the mystery of China's mythological beast. Find out which eras the exhibition spans and what separates Chinese dragons from those in Western folklore.
This is NTD Evening News, live from our global headquarters in New York City.
Good evening and thank you for joining us tonight. I'm Tiffany Meyer. President Trump in a social media post warns Cuba to make a deal before it's too late. The post said Cuba lived on Venezuelan money and oil for many years. The Guardian reports that no Venezuelan shipments have left for Cuba since last week's capture of Nicolas Maduro. Trump's Truth Social post said that Cuba supplied security services for Venezuelan dictators in return for money and oil. Trump also reposted a social media post that suggested Secretary of State Marco Rubio will be Cuba's new president, and Trump agreed. Rubio's parents immigrated from Cuba. Protests in downtown Minneapolis ending with thousands of dollars in damages to local hotels. Here's a look at what erupted on Friday night at hotels suspected of hosting immigration agents.
Escalated from unlawful assembly to quiet streets, hotels in downtown Minneapolis quickly fixing the damage left by anti-immigration demonstrations late Friday night into Saturday morning.
This assembly is unlawful under the laws of the state of Minnesota.
Metal fences and newly posted no trespassing signs zip-tied outside the Depot Renaissance Hotel after Minneapolis police reported graffiti caused $6,000 worth of damage to its windows. Minneapolis Police Department not taking any chances on Saturday night. Cops maintaining a presence both inside and outside of the Depot Renaissance Hotel. The same goes for the Canopy Hotel.
The U.S. State Department is telling American citizens to leave Venezuela immediately. The notification also advises U.S. citizens not to travel there. The statement says armed militias known as colectivos have set up roadblocks. They are searching cars for proof of American citizenship or U.S. support. Colectivos are aligned with Nicolas Maduro and his socialist regime. They have been accused of terrorizing Venezuelan communities and squashing opposition to the ruling regime. The travel advisory comes from the U.S. Embassy in the capital of Colombia. Official operations at the U.S. Embassy in Venezuela were suspended in 2019. Venezuela maintains the State Department's highest travel advisory, level 4, do not travel. It warns of arbitrary detention, torture, and kidnapping. Other countries with the same travel advisory include Afghanistan, Iran, Somalia, Ukraine, and Russia. From a dramatic capture of a dictator and a massive trade deficit drop to revamped health guidelines focused on natural foods, this week saw major changes from the Trump administration. NTD's Daniel Monahan has your White House week in review.
In a daring overnight operation last weekend, Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro and his wife were taken into custody to face charges in the United States.
The bravery was incredible. Let's see, they got off the helicopter and the bullets were flying all over the place.
Maduro was flown to New York, later passing the Statue of Liberty, and arraigned in a federal court on Monday, where he pleaded not guilty. President Trump addressed questions about leadership in Venezuela following Maduro's capture.
And don't ask me who's in charge, because I'll give you an answer and it'll be very controversial.
What does that mean?
It means we're in charge.
Massive protests took place all week in Iran, with demonstrators marching through Iran's capital and other major cities. President Trump has repeatedly threatened Tehran if it kills protesters.
We'll take a look. We're watching it very closely. If they start killing people like they have in the past, I think they're going to get hit very hard by the United States.
President Trump proposed increasing the Pentagon budget by 66% to $1.5 trillion by 2027, saying it would deliver what he calls America's dream military, commenting on Fox News.
We need it because there are some real threats out there.
The trade deficit shrank to around $29 billion in October, the narrowest gap since June 2009, and a 39% decrease from September. CNBC called the numbers unreal.
We haven't been that small in a long time. I don't have enough records here to go back that far.
Vice President J.D. Vance called on Minnesota Governor Tim Walz to step down, as the state has been racked by a massive alleged fraud scandal.
I think Tim Walz should resign because it's very clear either that he knew about the fraud in Minneapolis, he knew about the welfare fraud, or at the very least he looked the other way.
Minnesota was also the site of an ICE officer-involved shooting, where an officer shot as a car sped toward him, killing the driver. Governor Walz criticized federal enforcement tactics.
There is no verifiable evidence that any of this is making America safer.
The way that the media, by and large, has reported this story has been an absolute disgrace, and it puts our law enforcement officers at risk every single day.
HHS announced new guidelines for a healthy diet.
Real food, protein, dairy, fruit and vegetables, and then grains, whole grains. That's what America should be eating, and that is what the science says.
We are going to finally address the root causes of our broken healthcare system: insulin resistance and general body inflammation, advanced by the protein-poor, micronutrient-poor, ultra-processed, refined carbohydrate diet that kids are addicted to today.
The Trump administration announced the U.S. will exit 66 international organizations and agreements, including 31 tied to the United Nations. Secretary of State Marco Rubio said many were dominated by progressive ideology and detached from national interests. President Trump again described Greenland as vital to U.S. national security.
Right now, Greenland is covered with Russian and Chinese ships all over the place.
President Trump also moved to ban institutional investors from purchasing single-family homes, a policy aimed at lowering housing costs. Daniel Monahan, NTD News.
The Trump administration's action in Venezuela is stirring up heated debate on Capitol Hill. Defense officials briefed lawmakers this week, and Democrats forced a vote to limit further U.S. military action in the country. NTD's Melina Weiskup has the Capitol Hill roundup.
Republicans returned to Capitol Hill this week, quick to defend the Trump administration's removal of communist dictator Nicolas Maduro from Venezuela.
Under President Trump, the United States will no longer allow criminal regimes to profit from wreaking havoc and destruction on our country.
The people in Miami, the people of the area that I represent, are very happy that Nicolas Maduro is out of the way. And now, hopefully, it paves the way for a free and democratic Venezuela.
Though most Democrats critical of the administration's choice to take military action without congressional approval. On Thursday, Democrats and 5 Republicans advanced a resolution to curtail President Trump's authority to order further military action on Venezuela.
And then a debate, finally, after months, about this military operation.
Following a classified briefing from defense and justice officials, some lawmakers raised concerns about what they described as a lack of clarity on the plans ahead.
There are a lot of questions from both Democrats and Republicans about what comes next, what the timeline is.
That's what you always say when it's the other party. The bottom line is we've gone into great detail with them about the planning. We've described it to him.
Senator John Fetterman once again breaking with the general Democrat messaging, praising Trump's actions after the U.S. military seized sanctioned oil tankers.
I love it. I love it. Finally standing up and pushing back on Russia.
As for other key congressional action, House lawmakers held the first public hearing to expose a multi-billion-dollar fraud scheme taking place in Minnesota.
And Minnesota's Democrat leadership have either been asleep at the wheel or complicit in these crimes.
One state lawmaker revealed that people who tried to report the fraud faced retaliation.
Threats of being fired with cause, which means you do not get unemployment insurance in the state of Minnesota, being blacklisted from all state agencies.
Minnesota Governor Tim Walz has repeatedly defended his handling of the massive fraud, but following national scrutiny, he decided to drop his re-election campaign to serve for a third term. Democrat Senator Amy Klobuchar is now eyeing the spot. In other news, lawmakers are grieving the passing of late Congressman Doug LaMalfa. The longtime Republican from Northern California died on Tuesday. Lawmakers from both parties offered condolences.
It really shook us. Doug was a great man. He really was truly a great man. He's a lifelong resident of Northern California and deeply loved the people he represented. He was a fierce fighter, as you've heard.
Democrat leader Hakeem Jeffries, in a statement, wrote, "It was an honor to witness firsthand his passion and personal resolve for more than a decade." President Trump dedicated his speech to the entire Republican caucus to late Congressman LaMalfa.
I was really saddened by his passing and was thinking about not even doing the speech in his honor. But then I decided that I have to do it in his honor. I'll do it in his honor because he would have wanted it that way. He would have wanted it that way.
California will need to hold a special election to replace LaMalfa in the coming weeks. Reporting from Washington, D.C., Melina Weisskopf, NTD News.
Coming up, what's next for Venezuela's oil? President Trump saying oil companies will spend $100 billion to rebuild there, while sending a warning to Cuba. Our panel unpacks what this means for the region and the world. And a neurologist explains why the onset of Alzheimer's isn't random or inevitable, plus details on what steps we can take right now to lower its risk. All that in just a minute here on NTD News.
This is how I keep my joints happy.
Omega XL is a powerful natural supplement backed by 40 years of clinical research. Take control of your pain, like Cynthia Bailey.
My knees in particular started giving me pain issues all the way back to my modeling days, from just running through airports, photo shoots. After taking Omega XL, I really started to notice how less stiff I was, especially my knees and my hip. Has Omega XL changed my life? Yes. I barely notice my joint pain anymore. Now I'm like literally sprinting through the airports. My secret is Omega XL.
Pick up the phone and call now to get this exclusive TV offer. Buy one Omega XL and we'll send you a second bottle absolutely free. You'll also get a free bottle of Vitamin XL D3. Buy one, get two free. A total value of over $115, all for just $49.95. You save more than 55% and shipping is free. Backed by a money-back guarantee and is not available in stores. Operators are standing by, so call now.
This is Pho-licious. Now, what is pho? It's an authentic Vietnamese noodle dish. Pho-licious chicken pho brings the comforting, aromatic flavors of Vietnam to your bowl. And Mama Thu's signature spice blend. Well, this chicken pho is as close to homemade as it gets without the wait. Some cubed chicken, a little lime, and then the magic moment. See you soon, my friends.
Pho-licious is now available at your local Walmart or walmart.com.
There's a whirlwind of emotion and activity going on in this painting. And there's chaos all around and threat from below. The wolves surrounding her, and they're anything but unmoved. They're moving all the time, and we sense that. But this little girl remains unmoved.
Welcome back. I'm Tiffany Meyer. How did Venezuela devolve from a once prosperous country into an authoritarian hub for drug cartels and a key node of Chinese and Iranian influence? How does Maduro's capture affect Beijing's strategy on Latin America? To understand the geopolitical implications of America's capture of Venezuelan leader Nicolas Maduro, American Thought Leaders host Yanni Kellick sat down with Michael Waller. He's a senior analyst for strategy at the Center for Security Policy and author of Big Intel. Let's dive in.
Michael Waller, such a pleasure to have you on American Thought Leaders.
It's good to see you.
Let's talk about Venezuelan leader Maduro being captured by the United States. What are the geopolitical implications here? What's going on?
There are potentially huge geopolitical implications because now no leader on earth is safe from the United States. If we have the capability to undetected come into a huge fortified military base and break into the inner sanctum of where a leader is hiding and snatch him out undetected, then the whole world has changed.
What are the implications with respect to communist China? I've seen quite a bit of commentary on this issue. Notably, there was actually a delegation from China there, hours before the raid that took Maduro actually took place. What do you think?
Well, it was interesting because just a couple days before Trump removed Maduro, the Chinese regime had said, we're not going to give up an inch of our gains in Latin America. So Trump just went and took away a lot of those gains. Venezuela was an important linchpin for the CCP and for its global strategy in building a blue water navy that will ultimately be able to operate in any part of the world. It will become a trans-Pacific power on the sea. It will become an Atlantic maritime power. The PLA Navy would become under this plan a Caribbean power, which means control over Panama Canal, which means control over shipping from Houston, Galveston, Mississippi River Delta, anywhere in the world. So it would use its Belt and Road dual-use port facilities, both seaport and airport facilities, to expand its power projection, and then to potentially allow, not potentially, but this is the whole theory behind it, to allow any Chinese warships existing now or those that are being built now to dock at these Belt and Road facilities anywhere in the world. So Venezuela was a colossal asset for China as a piece of real estate from which the CCP could operate against us, but also a huge resource sitting on the world's largest reserves of oil. Once that infrastructure was restored, Venezuela could provide the Chinese communists with any amount of oil, and for them it's embargoed oil, right? It's under sanctions, so the Venezuelans can't sell it on the open market for dollars. They have to sell it at a steep discount, and the Chinese communists don't even have to pay in petrodollars. They're paying in yuan, or they're paying in barter. So this is super, super cheap oil that's keeping Xi Jinping's whole domestic and global agenda afloat, and they've just lost it.
There's this other dimension I heard about. There was commentary about how it was Chinese radar systems that had been basically evaded by the American force. Have you actually followed the dynamics of the raid and what we actually know as a fact? And how did this fit in?
Oh, this is a big defeat for the CCP's military hardware industry and for the Huawei telecommunications industry, because Venezuela is wired with Huawei. So Beijing is so smug about controlling the world through Huawei. Well, it looks like the United States was able to break in through cyber attacks into the whole Huawei system and shut it down. And also to break in to the logic systems of the computers running the Chinese-made air defense systems and to shut those down.
Fascinating. So it wasn't that the systems weren't working, it was that they were disabled.
They were disabled.
So what is going to happen to Xi Jinping and his agenda?
So you have these oil billionaires who are also CCP officials. You have provincial officials that depend on the oil refining industry, who also have a lot of power within the CCP and Xi Jinping's base within the party. All right now, while Xi is purging the military yet again, so he's feeling unstable. So can you imagine how he has to seem invincible He has to seem flawless. His whole domestic image is one of flawless perfection, and he's making China a superpower and an extremely modern, economically powerful future of the world. Well, what's happening now? That whole thing risks collapse. The CCP is super leveraged out. It cannot afford to lose anything economically right now.
Well, and you also said at the beginning that basically this is a message that the U.S., if you keep up bad behavior, if I recall the something, I believe it was Secretary Rubio said, he said, we gave him lots of chances, right? And so, and I'm not 100% sure what exactly the chances were, other than kind of stand down around the cartel activity and so forth. That anyone is fair game. Is when you say anyone, does that include some of the great powers?
Well, just think of what was done. They were using the best air defense systems that the Russians and the Chinese regime could produce, and they're complete failures. What does this say to everybody else in the world who wants to integrate themselves with Russian and Chinese military systems? It's like, you're selling us junk. You're not making us safer at all. You're a terrible ally. And then both Russia and the Chinese government are completely helpless to do anything to help Maduro. If you're a strongman somewhere, you're a dictator, you're somebody who's just on the take from the CCP, the party can't defend you. So this is going to cause, potentially, especially if Trump plays it right and keeps pushing, it's going to cause a complete change around the world in regimes that want to ally themselves with the Chinese Communist Party.
To watch the full episode, go to epictv.com and look for American Thought Leaders. What's next for Venezuela's oil? President Trump telling oil executives in the White House Friday that oil companies will spend $100 billion to rebuild the capacity and the infrastructure necessary in Venezuela. Joining us to break down what this means and the geopolitical implications are two guests: Ray Trevino, Vice President of Operations at Pico's Country Operating Texas, and Rod D. Martin, founder and CEO of Martin Capital. Thank you both so much for joining us. Ray, starting with you, President Trump saying the companies will have security guarantees and will be dealing directly with the United States, not Venezuela. What do you make of this and what this would look like in practice?
Well, thank you as always for having me. And what a change of pace to actually be dealing with the United States government in any form or fashion in any other country. What the oil and gas companies definitely are looking for more than anything is stability. When you look at what's gone on in Venezuela for decades, this instability has been there this entire time. And companies like Chevron and ExxonMobil don't want to continue to invest billions of dollars in a country that is uncertain. So to continue to work with the United States government and the Venezuelan government is what I expect to happen. And basically the United States administration will be the middleman.
And Rod, President Trump saying in a Truth Today that Cuba should make a deal or face the consequences, adding no more Venezuelan oil or money will be going to Havana. How big of a deal is this for Cuba? How dependent is the island on Venezuela?
Oh, Cuba's toast. They're really in trouble. They have been being subsidized for most of their history, either by the Soviet Union or then after that, slack taken up by the socialists in Venezuela, and that's gone. And it's in two different respects. First, they get a lot of oil that they use in Cuba from Venezuela, but they also resell a lot of that highly subsidized oil on international markets so that they can raise hard currency. And that's how Chavez and Maduro have subsidized them, in exchange for which the Cubans have provided security assistance in Venezuela and all kinds of technical expertise. And that's great, but that's also going away. And we killed a decent number of their guys when we took Maduro. So this is catastrophic for Cuba. And they're not going to be able to get oil there from Russia, even if Russia could do that. We're going after Russia's tankers. The shadow fleet is in danger now, and Trump couldn't be any clearer that we're not going to allow that situation to continue. So we're going to see Putin needing to come to the peace table in Ukraine. We're going to see Cuba needing to make a deal. And if the Cuban regime wants to make a deal that Maduro did not make, they might survive in some form. Otherwise, they're gone.
I want to dig into the geopolitical implications a bit more. But Ray, first, Caracas and Washington are progressing on a $2 billion deal to supply up to 50 million barrels of Venezuelan oil to the U.S., with proceeds going to U.S. Treasury supervised accounts. Talk to us about the Venezuelan crude, though. It's known to be quite thick. How easy is it to process, and where would this oil end up in the U.S., for example? Could we see prices coming down at the pump here at home?
You know, that's a great question. And to actually begin to see the prices come down at the pump with Venezuelan oil will take months. The infrastructure alone will take months. And then, of course, we got to start pumping it. So being ultra conservative, we won't see any true effects of increased barrels globally for months. What this does for the American people, though, is give us that assurance that our strategic petroleum reserves are refilled after this previous administration that depleted them just for political points. Now, to talk about why the president is going to be controlling this money, let's not forget the fact that in Venezuela, money was going to China, Russia, and terrorist groups. So we want to make sure that when we hand them the money, we're not just blindly handing them the money so that they can turn around and give it to our adversaries.
And Rod, how are you reading all this? Venezuela essentially turning over the oil to the U.S.
Yeah, that's all exactly right. And what Mike Waller was saying in the last segment is right. This is the basis of the future of the Venezuelan economy, and Donald Trump does not mean for it to be stolen again. And that's not just stolen from the Venezuelan people, but the CEO of ExxonMobil made the point the other day that as they are, they're uninvestable. ExxonMobil alone has had its property in Venezuela stolen not once but twice by the regime. And, you can't go back in that situation. So a lot of significant legal changes and guarantees are going to have to be made. And they're not in a position to really disagree because they just saw there's not a single member of this regime that can't be in the next jail cell from Maduro in New York tomorrow if Donald Trump decides to make it happen. They're all co-conspirators. They're all involved in the same crimes for which Maduro has been indicted. They're all in danger. They've got to play ball.
And Ray, zooming out a bit here, the Wall Street Journal notes that bringing Venezuela's output under U.S. control has the potential to upend the power balance in the world market. What does this mean for OPEC?
Well, let's keep in mind that Venezuela is part of OPEC. A lot of people think of OPEC as just being Middle East countries. And what this crude oil from Venezuela will provide here in America is just additional barrels. A lot of people also don't know that the United States refineries, majority of them refine crude oil and not that sweet Texas tea that us here at Pecos produce. So what this is going to do down the road is actually add barrels to the global supply. As Rod mentioned, we have the dark fleet or shadow fleet, and that oil is not being accounted for right now on global numbers. So we could possibly see the price of oil even go down more, again, as this oil hits the market several months down the road.
And Rod, I want to go to your earlier point about the geopolitical implications here, especially for China, Russia, Iran, et cetera. Specifically for China, though, Venezuela signed on to the global infrastructure project known as the Belt and Road in 2018. And when it couldn't pay its debts, it often used oil. Given that, how big of a blow is this specifically to China?
Oh, it's a terrible blow. And it's an even bigger blow to their geopolitical ambitions. We have a tremendous advantage over the Chinese by having the first island chain. So from Luzon through Taiwan, up through the Ryukyus to Japan, we're holding the Chinese Navy in check. And it's very, very hard for them to get through that. If we wanted to blockade them, if we actually went into a war state, they would be in a lot of trouble from that. The CCP wants to duplicate that against us. We will see that growing in space over time. I was on another show talking about that the other day. but we're seeing it in the Caribbean. That's what this gambit about Panama and Venezuela and Cuba really is. Ultimately, that becomes the base for the blue water Chinese Navy. That's gone now. I mean, there's just no way for them to execute. So this is a catastrophic blow at a grand strategic level.
Lot to watch for here for sure. Roddy Martin, Ray Trevino, thank you both so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Coming up, a neurologist explains why the onset of Alzheimer's isn't random or inevitable. Details on what steps we can take right now to lower its risk. And mythical dragons and emperors have touched down in Paris with an exhibition capturing the mystery of China's mythological beast. Find out which eras the exhibition spans and what separates Chinese dragons from those in Western folklore. That and more after this quick break.
Many of my clients ask me, how can I afford to buy my next home, but also make sure my current home sells? That's why who you work with matters. With HomeLight, we're able to help clients buy and sell at the same time with all of the certainty and none of the stress. It's the most game-changing solution in real estate today. Together with HomeLight, we've helped clients win the home of their dreams every time.
I had a pretty normal mom life. Everything was pretty good, and it was a very happy life.
And we just had a new baby. And then all of a sudden, within a day or two, she's on life support and fighting for her life.
And I knew something was pretty wrong. A little less than a week after I came home, I couldn't breathe. That's when we decided to go to the hospital. I was given the diagnosis that I had peripartum cardiomyopathy, which is basically a pregnancy-induced heart failure. They told me my only chance was a heart transplant.
And the American Heart Association helped make that possible. Their research helped save me.
This could not happen without monthly donations from friends like you. Your sustained support helps fund life-saving research that leads to medical breakthroughs, like those that gave Jen a second chance at life. Heart disease is the #1 killer in America, and we urgently need your help to save lives. Go to helpheart.org or call now to become a monthly donor today. Your donation of only $19 a month, just 63 cents a day, will make a difference through prevention, early detection, treatments, and cures that help save lives.
I am very thankful for the American Heart Association. I'm grateful for just every day that I get with my children.
Please go to helpheart.org or call now with your donation of just $19 a month. Join our community of monthly donors, and you'll get this limited edition t-shirt you can wear to show you're helping save lives.
One simple act today can save your life or the life of a loved one.
So please, call or go to helpheart.org now to help save lives.
Shop Mathis Home and save during the annual clearance event for huge discounts on all the latest styles. Here's a great value. This sofa from Ashley is a bestseller. It's just $4.99 and comes with 2 accent pillows. Upgrade to Motion with this sofa that has plush pillow top arms and 2 recliners built in. Clearance priced at just $7.99. They're in stock now with fast free delivery. For the best value, come to the annual clearance event at your furniture superstore, Mathis Home.
Welcome back. I'm Tiffany Meyer. Tehran is threatening to attack U.S. military bases amid widespread protests across Iran, while the U.S. is showing support for the Iranian people as they rise up against the Islamic regime. NTD's international correspondent Arian Pazdar has the latest, and just a warning, some viewers may find the following footage disturbing.
Protests against the Islamic regime continue spreading across Iran. The regime cut off its people from the outside world by shutting down the internet on Thursday night. Violence reportedly increased after that. A video released on Sunday shows body bags lining the streets. It's unclear exactly how many people have died since the protests began, as different sources report different numbers. According to the Center for Human Rights in Iran, There have been hundreds of casualties since the internet blackout. The Jerusalem Post says 2,000 people died during this weekend alone, and according to IntelliNews, up to 4,000 people died. But the people keep protesting.
Iran's in big trouble. It looks to me that the people are taking over certain cities that nobody thought were really possible just a few weeks ago.
Protests are not only taking place in Iran, they're spreading across the globe to London, Paris, and Washington in front of the White House. Protesters in D.C. say they're against the current regime, and neither do they want to return to the dynasty of the previous leader, which was Shah Mohammad Reza Pahlavi.
Down with the oppressor, be it the Shah or the supreme leader. They're not settling for theocracy. They're not going back to a dictatorship which they once overthrew.
A protester in Germany says he wants Europe to do more and take a stronger stance against the regime.
We need a strong position in Europe. It's just like calling it's a shame. It's not enough now because people are dying.
On Saturday, President Trump weighed in heavily, saying Iran is looking at freedom, perhaps like never before. The U.S. stands ready to help. Iran responded, threatening the U.S. with a possible preemptive attack on U.S. military bases and ships overseas. Iran's parliamentary speaker says the regime might launch a preemptive strike based on any objective signs of a threat. President Trump issued a strong warning to Iran on Friday.
I've made the statement very strongly that if they start killing people like they have in the past, we will get involved. We'll be hitting them very hard where it hurts.
Trump added that this doesn't necessarily mean having boots on the ground, hinting at a possible operation similar to the one in June, when the U.S. bombed critical Iranian nuclear sites. Arian Pastar, NTD News.
Switching gears to business, here's an update for shoppers that prefer brick-and-mortar browsing compared to clicking add to cart. Macy's plans to close 14 of its department stores in 12 states across the country. The company says the closures are part of Macy's strategy to shrink its footprint in the United States. The department store chain says its goal is to better serve customers and support long-term growth, and the closures will allow Macy's to invest more in stores that are doing well and expand its digital presence. Nearly 2 years ago, the company announced plans to close 150 underperforming stores by the end of this year. Alzheimer's is a heartbreaking disease, one that can slowly erase a lifetime of memories, relationships, and identity. But what if the onset of the disease isn't random or inevitable? What if there are steps we can take right now to lower the risk? In this episode of Vital Signs, a neurologist and fellow of the American College of Nutrition joins host Brendan Fallon to explain what drives this brain disease and what people can do earlier in life to help prevent it.
The early changes of Alzheimer's begin 20 to 30 years prior to the executive function failure. When our blood sugar elevates, it tends to change our brain's immune system from being friend to being foe. The empowering part of that statement is the shift is under your care. You can control that.
My next guest is Dr. David Perlmutter, a board-certified neurologist. I'm going to be talking to him about the idea that Alzheimer's may be a type 3 diabetes, a metabolic disease, essentially. Dr. David Perlmutter, why don't you start by telling us about your qualification?
Well, Brandon, thank you, first of all, for having me. I am, as you mentioned, a board-certified neurologist. Neurology has always been my passion, but I'm also a fellow of the American College of Nutrition. I'm the only one with both of those designations. I'm a 6 times New York Times bestselling author. And my focus is really on neurodegenerative conditions in general. And you mentioned we were going to start off with Alzheimer's, and I think it's a very, very important topic that we should open up.
The first thing I'd like to ask you on that front, if someone is diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease, is it a foregone conclusion that they're going to be dead within 10 years, would you say?
Well, I think if we just look at what mainstream medicine has to offer these individuals, the answer is yes. Almost, will they be alive? Yeah, and what will that quality of life be like 10 years from now? It's hard to imagine what that's going to look like. But I will say, on the other hand, right now, as you and I have this conversation, there are some incredible advancements in the understanding of what is causing the brain to go bad in Alzheimer's disease. And why is that important? Because it's now giving us some incredibly important tools to really combat that problem. And I think, to be fair, my mission is not so much focused on treating patients who are down the slope of Alzheimer's decline. although that's what we do. It's also, and I think equally important, to focus on how to keep your brain healthy today and keep you from having to worry about what's my treatment going to be. Rather, make you the steward of your own brain's destiny.
If you come to a patient who has an Alzheimer's diagnosis, let's say they could go back 30, 40 years, what is the main things they should be doing at that point in their lives?
That's a fantastic question, because the reality is that the early changes of Alzheimer's, we'll call them the metabolic changes in the brain, begin 20 to 30 years prior to the memory failure, the executive function failure, you know, what we call the clinical markers of the disease, where basically your brain isn't working right. So that's where we need to intervene. We need to intervene in people your age and make them recognize that lifestyle choices you are making right now are going to play out when you're my age. So, you know, if you want to be cognitively intact, I'm 70, at 70, and have conversations like this, you better start doing the things at your age to rein in your metabolism, your blood sugar, your blood pressure, your insulin sensitivity, your body weight, your serum lipids, your blood fats, as it were. These things are critically important in terms of your metabolism, and Alzheimer's is fundamentally a manifestation of problems earlier in your life with your metabolism. The empowering part of that statement is you can control that.
What would you identify as the most compelling evidence that these metabolic factors are influencing Alzheimer's?
Well, for me, there's a lot of science out there that makes it very clear. The increased risk of developing Alzheimer's if you're type 2 diabetic is about 3.8-fold, for example. That means, you know, you're more than triple at risk of getting Alzheimer's if you're type 2 diabetic. And these, you know, the incidence of diabetes is skyrocketing. You know, here in America, we have 40 million type 2 diabetics, meaning 40 million people whose risk for Alzheimer's is increased threefold. And they don't have to be type 2 diabetics. We have about a third of our population pre-diabetic. That's worrisome, but even more worrisome is that 90% of those people don't know it. So they're on the continuum to become diabetic. They're on the continuum to increase their risk of Alzheimer's by about threefold. That's where we need to intervene. For me, if I'm thinking about all the literature, this is a little bit of an outsider for you. The most compelling thing that comes to my mind is an image, a picture. And what that picture shows, it's a special type of brain scan that looks at the brain's ability to use glucose, blood sugar, as a fuel, and shows significant issues with that early on, long before the clinical manifestation. So what I'm saying is that the brain's ability to use fuel appropriately is compromised decades before we begin becoming forgetful. And that's all about our metabolism.
So with insulin resistance being the, as I understand it, at the core of diabetes, well, first, Dr. Perlmutter, what is it that, in terms of diabetes, the phenomena of diabetes that is leading to the brain degeneration?
That's a wonderful question, and I'll tell you why. Because we've known about the statistic I just quoted about the threefold increased risk, but that was about as far as the conversation went. And so now you ask the question, okay, why is that? And I think that's a great place to go.
To see that full interview and others on how to optimize health, go to ept.ms/vital signs. Vital Signs offers general health information not intended as medical diagnosis or advice. Please consult your doctor before undertaking a new health regimen.
Coming up, reviving a traditional culture live on stage. The Lord Mayor of Oxford tells NTD what struck her after seeing Shenyun performing arts. And mythical dragons and emperors have touched down in Paris with an exhibition capturing the mystery of China's mythological beast. Find out which eras the exhibition spans and what separates Chinese dragons from those in Western folklore. That and more after this quick break.
According to ancient Chinese medicine, purslane is considered a medicinal herb and is used to help lower cholesterol, improve vascular functions, and prevent diabetes. Perilla seeds can nourish the lungs and spleen. It is used to treat asthma and improve pulmonary functions. Puritang green vegetable omega-3 is made from purslane and perilla seeds from Hwangmae Mountain in South Korea. It contains over 90% of omega-3, 6, 7, and 9. The highest concentration possible without chemical additives. The soft gel is made of natural seaweed. It is 100% organic and vegan. Both adults and children can take it with peace of mind. Ancient recipes were passed down from heaven to bring prosperity and longevity. Puritan green vegetable omega-3.
What if kids in America didn't have to go to bed hungry tonight? What if our moms, dads, and grandparents could put healthy food on the table every day to help us grow strong? What if all of our friends and neighbors had fresh food too, and there was no hunger at all in America? And what if there was a way today for you to help? Call now or go online to helpfeedingamerica.org and give $19 a month, just 63 cents a day. So many of us don't have enough food to eat, but your monthly gift means families across the country and in your community can fill plates with food. Kids can get healthy meals year-round, even when school's out, and our neighbors can have fresh food. Food that moms, dads, entire families need to thrive. But right now, more people are facing hunger. Feeding America works from coast to coast with partner food banks, food pantries, and meal programs. It takes all of us to make that happen. Will you help too? Please call the number on your screen or go online to helpfeedingamerica.org and give just $19 a month, and we'll send you this free canvas grocery bag. It's our way of saying thank you for helping to end hunger for our neighbors. Because no kid, no mom or dad, nobody should go hungry in America. Nobody. So what if today was the day you could help nourish futures for our friends, our families, for all of us? Ending hunger is possible. What if we end it together? Call or give online today at helpfeedingamerica.org and your gift can be doubled. Thank you.
Welcome back. I'm Tiffany Meyer. Before you can find signs of life on other planets, you have to find the planets that could support life. That task is one of the goals behind NASA's newest small space telescope. And it's headed to the stars after blasting off this morning aboard a SpaceX rocket. Here's more.
NASA's latest eye in space is called the Star Planet Activity Research CubeSat, or SPARCS. It's a small space telescope that will monitor the flares and sunspot activity of low-mass stars.
It is 30 centimeters by 20 centimeters by 10 centimeters, very close to a family-sized Cheerios box in your kitchen that you might have. And so really it's very small, compact, and easy to launch.
Astrophysicist Evgenia Shkolnik is leading the mission. She is a professor in the School of Earth and Space Exploration at Arizona State University.
We know that these stars flare like crazy, much more actively, much more energetically, much more frequently than our own sun. And so the planets that orbit these smaller, low-mass stars are impacted much more intensely than we are here on Earth.
The telescope will look at wavelengths of ultraviolet light that our eyes can't see. Stars send out this kind of light into space and towards the exoplanets that orbit them. The data should give answers to important space science questions and possibly clues about whether any of these exoplanets might have the right conditions to support life.
New movies are challenging the reigning champ at the weekend box office. Did any of them do well enough to nab the crown? Here are the early estimates for the top 5 films in theaters right now.
That was awesome. The Naked Gun fell to 5th place in its second weekend, grossing $8.4 million.
Not everyone believes it, but The Bad Guys went good.
The Bad Guys 2 took 4th place, earning $10.4 million in its sophomore weekend.
Please welcome the Fantastic Four.
After 2 weekends on top, the Fantastic Four First Steps fell to 3rd. $15.5 million gave the superhero flick a domestic total of $230 million.
So if you're me and I'm you, then who is that? I'm Grandma, sweetheart.
A solid start for Freakier Friday. The body swap comedy sequel opened in 2nd place with $29 million.
A lot of people die in a lot of really weird ways in this story.
Weapons is the top new movie in theaters. The mystery horror thriller debuted with $42.5 million, more than it reportedly cost to make.
Audiences across the world have been impressed by the artistry of Shenyang dancers and musicians. In England, Shenyang Performing Arts took the stage this week for its first performance of the year in Oxford. Among audience members was the Lord Mayor of Oxford. NTD is a proud media sponsor of Shenyang, covering audience reactions since 2006. Take a listen.
From flips and turns to gentle movements, Shenyang Performing Arts has a mission to revive China's ancient civilization through dance and music. It's a rich culture that in recent times was almost lost under communist rule. Among the audience watching Shenyang in Oxford's new theatre on January the 7th was the Lord Mayor of Oxford.
What a wonderful, sort of joyful, colourful, but incredibly artistic afternoon. One interesting bit was when all of the female dancers sort of lift up one leg, and basically sort of kind of doing the splits, holding one leg directly upwards, and I felt the audience collectively go because that's just so dramatic to be able to do that.
According to the programme book, following the traditions of ancient China, Shenyang artists believe that to perform something truly good and beautiful on stage, they have to cultivate their inner beauty. The Lord Mayor commented on how this came through in the joy and the synchronicity of the performers.
Every movement was in sync, everything they did together, even just I was really noticing what they did with their hands. Every hand movement was beautifully precision, calculated, I could see, and moved together. So that sense that they were all acting as one came through very clearly, I think. And also the joy, I think they all really enjoyed doing it. You can see they're smiling and enjoying it. So clearly I'd imagine that they are all good friends and that they really think of themselves as a unit.
The dances are accompanied by a live orchestra that blends musical traditions from the East and West, combining ancient Chinese instruments with a full Western orchestra.
Lovely to hear the really different kind of instruments, the Chinese musical instruments that we're not used to hearing, but with the backdrop of the more traditional sort of Western orchestra, but picking out the melodies with the traditional Chinese instruments was very special, really interesting to hear.
The Lord Mayor said she enjoyed the universal messages in the performance.
It's not just an entertaining afternoon, it actually sends you away thinking, well, I think there are more good people in the world than bad. And that's a good thing.
NTD News, Oxford, UK.
Mythical dragons and emperors have touched down in Paris with an exhibition capturing the mystery of China's mythological beast. Unlike the dragons of Western folklore, Chinese dragons symbolize valor, power, strength, confidence, and ambition.
The dragon is related to the sky, so to the clouds, the rain, but also to the stars. So the dragon is the eastern constellation, which appears in spring, when the day gets longer and when the nature regenerates. The dragon is a transformation creature, hybrid creature. So it can take a lot of different shapes. It can be represented in ceramic, in architecture, in paintings. So in any kind of materials or shapes. So that's also one of the reasons of his success, because it's a very graphic and design character.
These beautiful and elaborate dragon costumes might be a familiar sight, often coming out during Chinese New Year celebrations. They're part of a large exhibition in Paris in partnership with Taipei's National Palace Museum. According to the museum, what is on show takes us through the manifestations of the dragon since Neolithic times 5,000 years ago. One of the highlights is a jade dragon pig from the Hongshan culture. The exhibit's associate curator describes this Neolithic artifact as one of the first three-dimensional representations of the dragon. But there's so much more in the exhibit, from bronze vessels dating from the Shang and Western Zhou dynasties to a Ming dynasty scroll where the dragon emerges through ink, immortalized in a poem. Moving forward in time, a Qing porcelain basin illustrates one of China's most popular legends, the carp leaping the dragon gate, a metaphor for praising hard work and perseverance. Dragons also played an important role for emperors, becoming the exclusive emblem of the Chinese emperor, the mediator between heaven, earth, and humanity, as seen here in an embroidered imperial robe, complete with gold threads. One of the exhibition's most intimate treasures is the Infinite Circles box, once cherished by Emperor Jiaqing. It features jade miniature zodiac animals arranged in a circle around a square table, symbolizing the sky and the earth. Paintings of Ming and Qing emperors, diplomatic documents, and jade imperial seals illustrate how deeply dragons permeated court life. As the curators note, the dragon continues to rise, bridging heaven and earth, tradition and modernity, Asia and the world. That's through dance, jade, bronze, ink, and more. The dragon's exhibition runs through March 1st in Paris. And that's all for today's news. For round-the-clock coverage, visit us at ntd.com/live or download our NTD app. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Tiffany Meyer. Good night.